Okay, just wanted to do a quick tour of this year's Christmas light show display. Go ahead and walk you through all the various elements of my show, and I'll also show the new candy cane pixel arches. Okay, this is just my 13-key keyboard. Had this this last year, but what I've added to the show for this year are these guys, candy cane pixel arches. So what happens is these are 10 candy canes that what I do is I took RGB pixels and put 10 in each one, and they're the 2801 pixels, so that way I can go ahead and control each one. I run 3 sections in each pixel arch. So what I have is the first 4 candy canes is one section, then the next 4 is another section, and then the last 2 is your last section. Again, I have 3 of these guys. And then the way these guys have been put together is I took a piece of PVC pipe and I put it across the back here. So then I just use some rebar. This is like $2.50 a piece of rebar. It's like 3 foot long, and just hammered it in, and that's just what keeps them in place. Get some wind up here every now and then, and this seems to keep them in place without any problems. They don't seem to dance around at all. Pretty stable. All these cables go here into this box right here. I spray painted black so that way it's not so obvious. This is a power supply from Holiday Coro, and then this is the SAN devices. This is the 81, I believe, 91. And then of course I have the light-o-rama controller sitting over here. Also spray painted this one black so that way it wouldn't be as noticeable. My grass this year, I ran 3 separate channels. I ran white, blue, and red. This is actually a rock face, so it's a little bit more difficult to make kind of hidden, especially during the daytime, but one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to have multiple channels, so it's kind of a bird's eye view of everything. You notice on the top part it's spaced out a little bit, and then when you get back down here this way, the strands are a little bit closer together, and when you're actually down at the street level it looks really, really good. You can't even tell that they're actually sitting on rock. And then my Santa character is right here. LED rope light. This is basically bound to chain link tension wire. And then what I do is I just kind of soldered it together, rigged it together, electrical taped the lights that I did not want actually visible, made sure that what's behind this is a black board, so that way it's not as easily visible. And of course I have stuff I have up on the roof. Those are the strobe lights. Those fire at 3 to 4 times per second. There's a total of 20 of them in 2 separate channels, so that way I can make them sweep from one side of the roof to the other very easily. And of course I have my RGB floodlights. And then one of the other things I started to play around with is, instead of using a floodlight when it was really close to the eaves, instead I started using actual strips. So this is a very effective wall wash of the wall from these pixel strips. Sorry, not pixel strips, RGB strips. These are dumb pixels, not smart pixels. But even during the daytime, you can see how effective the wall wash actually is. Try not to have it down too low, that way it's not as easily visible. I had to put a bunch of hooks in order to be able to make that all stay in there. So as far as the actual connectivity for everything, I have a light-o-rama line that goes from the computer out to the control box that's over here behind the singing Santa. And then that line comes all the way over and goes to this control box is over here by the tree. So I have a main power line at both locations. This one right here also powers the pixel controller for the candy cane pixel arches, as well as my other RGB light, floodlight that's actually sitting inside the tree. So it has a nice wash effect inside the tree. So again, I can make the tree branches show up in whatever color I want to. It is kind of a spaghetti mess with all the wiring for the piano. Overall, I think this show came up pretty well. The Pixel controller is actually Ethernet fed, and the Ethernet line actually runs separate. So it runs this way, along with a DMX data cable for the other floodlight. It runs back here. I try not to make it intersect or run parallel with any 110 lines. It comes back into here, and then I have my light-o-rama network, my DMX networks, as well as my Ethernet network for my Pixel controller, and that all runs inside for the computer to control everything for the light show. And this is where my spaghetti mess from outside actually leads to. Goes to this computer, and then I have my FM transmitter right here. This goes to a piece of coax, which actually has speaker wire on the other each leg of the coax. So this is basically a simple dipole antenna. I don't need to transmit much power because, after all, the FCC does limit our effective range and our effective power. This is running from a Mac Mini. That's actually running Windows 7 on it. My NTEC Pro is what operates my RGB floods, as well as my RGB strips, my dumb strips underneath the eaves. So that's Universe 1. Then I have an Ethernet cable that comes off the back of the computer, and that's what actually runs out to the Pixel controller from SAN devices out in that box that controls the Candy Cane Pixel arches. And again, everything here runs off of light-o-rama software. So there's just my little schedule right now. So I'm just currently running the sequence I made just for taking pictures and whatnot, and showing everybody the ins and outs of the actual show. And obviously I can also remote in through my iPad, for example, using a program called LogMeIn, and I can also be sitting outside, and I could jump in and I could go ahead and pull up a show on demand or do whatever modifications I need, as well as pulling up the console for all kinds of testing purposes. Now, of course, setting up the whole show is only half the battle. The other half of the battle is actually sequencing everything. So every time a light turns on or off, that's me back here actually playing around with, every single channel. This particular light show is about 950 individual channels. We do have that broken down for the RGBs, so that way it's all grouped together. So I can just say I want pink, and light-o-rama obviously does the math for me. So effectively, I have around 350 channels that I have to actually play with in order to be able to make my light show work. And I've been working on this ever since, say, around July time frame, working on various songs. And obviously the visualizer is a big help with this. So that way when I decide I want to go ahead and play with a particular sequence, I can easily pull up the visualizer and I can go ahead and play the music and then see what kind of effects I'm trying to generate. And this is actually a part of my Blue Man Group Shake Your Euphemism sequence. So, but again, I can go ahead and, even in July, just playing around with all the music and try to get all the beats set up and getting all the timing marks perfect and generating the various effects that I really want to play around with. And that's where the bread and the butter of the entire show is, doing all the work leading up to the actual setup. That's where most of the work actually is. Okay, thanks for watching the behind-the-scenes tour of my 2013 light show. I have various links throughout this video, or also on the description down below, so if you want to get a tutorial on how to actually control your light show remotely, or see some of the other various testings I've been doing on my Candy Cane Pixel arches, even a time-lapse of the actual build-out. Feel free to scroll down and go ahead and check those links out. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Thanks.